Hello, everybody. My name is Robert Jacoby, and I'm here to moderate a very fascinating discussion between Convezio and Steadfast. I am an open source advocate and have been working with multiple communities over the last number of years, also recently as president of Joomla, the second largest open source content management system. These days, my role is primarily in the WordPress space. I'm happy to invite Tom Finelli and James Webb of Convezio and Steadfast, respectively. Tom, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks, Robert. Great to be here with you, James. So my name's Tom. I'm the founder and CEO of Convezio, and we are sort of a new approach to hosting WordPress across a clustered server environment. A little bit of background on myself. I've actually been in the WordPress space. I've been in the web design and agency space since before WordPress actually was created. I started on a platform called Adobe PageMill, and have been a WordPress fan and advocate since really its inception, and work really closely with a lot of agencies, e-commerce sites, and helping them improve their WordPress performance.
Thanks a lot, Tom. And James?
Thanks, Robert. Hi, my name is James Webb. I'm the COO of Steadfast, and we are a cloud and infrastructure company with heavy focus on customer service. Like Tom, I had been dealing with WordPress for many years, even prior to my role at Steadfast. I want to say it goes back, Tom, probably to 2006 or 7, somewhere in there. I think it's kind of interesting to see how WordPress over the years has continue to gain market and continue to be a prominent piece of hosting, whether you're on the cloud or whether you're on a VPS somewhere or a dedicated server. It seems to be just about everywhere these days.
Thanks, James. What's really exciting for me about this conversation is most people don't understand how the underpinnings of their WordPress websites are actually managed. Like, where is it hanging out? What's it going on? Why is it slow? What's going on? So we actually have Convezio as the hosting company, and then Steadfast as the infrastructure. Can we talk a little bit about how this relationship came together? What was sort of the impetus and go-to at the end of the day? Let's start with Tom. And there are a lot of infrastructure options and opportunities. What kind of made you rethink what you were currently doing, as well as looking at different kinds of opportunities?
Yeah, I think it's a great question. For us, we are obsessed with speed and performance. And, one of the things we're always looking for is how can we level up and just really increase our competitive differentiation. And for us, part of that is our technology stack, right? How we implement our servers and the software that sits on those servers. But another part of that is just ensuring we have the very fastest underlying infrastructure. And, we're, as many folks who've come across us know, we're on AWS and Google now. And, one of the things that's great about those platforms is there's just a wide variety of tools and services to leverage. But in some respects, I can't go to Google or AWS and say, we want to experiment with these types of servers or this type of configuration, because, Convezio is small compared to Amazon. And so, with Steadfast, we really have the opportunity to think and collaborate outside the box. And what we've done is we've built a really customized solution that's been tweaked for what we're specifically doing. And so that's really what made the magic that made this relationship so great, is their willingness to work together on that.
Could you tell me a little bit more about the WordPress background and drive to make Convezio the sort of premier, most performant host in the WordPress space?
Sure, yeah. I mean, I think that mostly due to Google from the marketing side, right? We're much more in tune with, there's a convergence of things really. We're much more in tune with how site performance actually drives business value. So we all know faster websites equal better SEO, better conversion and checkout, better lead conversion, more content that's consumed online. So I think the market has become much more educated now than they were 5 or 7 years ago on why site performance is really important. Also, what's happened is in the last 7 or 8 years, we're now seeing WordPress being used for so many sophisticated solutions. Not the run-of-the-mill blog that it used to be, but corporate websites, lead gen websites, landing pages, learning management systems, e-commerce, membership sites. And so as those businesses get more and more mature, they start to hit these walls where it's really hard to optimize some of the performance of WordPress. And so we wanted to architect a system that would really take the performance of WordPress to another level. And that's where we came out with this idea or this notion of being a sort of fully redundant multi-server implementation of WordPress that could scale with the resources that it needed very easily. So that's really what I think the market conditions have driven people to be really receptive to our type of solution.
So obviously some of those things really clicked with you with what Steadfast could provide. Could you be a little more specific on, kind of what led you to Steadfast as the infrastructure provider for Convezio?
Sure. I mean, I think Steadfast's reputation is amazing. I think that's one of the things that they're in a sweet spot for us. And I think also, and James can talk about this, they're actually really passionate about WordPress internally. So, and that would be a good thing to get James to talk about. But the combination of them being the level of quality and performance and just the level of flexibility for them to work on this with us and their desire to want to work on this with us was really what attracted us to them.
That's great, Tom. James, I don't know how you're going to accept all those accolades there, but let's talk a little bit about how Steadfast has worked on infrastructure specifically for WordPress and then even more specifically for the highly optimized Convezio platform.
Yeah, so it was great when we were introduced to Convezio and Tom originally, because we saw an opportunity to get in there and essentially do what we do best, and that is work closely with our clients and create infrastructure that helps them succeed. And so one of the things that Steadfast is really good at is getting in there early with engineers and scoping out every bit of the infrastructure that needs to be built in a way that you just won't find in big box cloud providers for the most part. And so when Robert introduced us, for me, it seemed like there was a gap. It was kind of a match made in heaven. And so at that point, we took that gap and we designed hardware and software on the back end that helps provide a stable and well-performing platform for Tom and his company moving forward. When it comes to the WordPress end of things, as we said before, WordPress is everywhere these days. And so much so that, a lot of my history working with WordPress admins, that was a priority for me when I came to Steadfast, when I joined the Steadfast team about 6 years ago, and that they understand those pieces. And so not only do we have teams that are on the engineering front, but also understanding why a WordPress plugin might be causing slowness on the front end, and then working with our clients to help mitigate those issues. And so to me, again, I feel that infrastructure is only half the solution there, but when it comes to hardware, if you build it with a purpose, that gives companies like Convezio and Tom the platform they need to succeed.
That's great, James. And I find it really kind of fascinating because, as I'm looking at it from sort of the, open source WordPress realm, I throw up a site, it's getting hosted, it just better not be down, and I don't care. But then you look at all the issues around SEO, e-commerce, losing people due to performance. I love the fact that there's this beautiful managed WordPress layer that's been sort of created by Convezio, and then a team, for gosh, I think it's Steadfast is around 2 decades, give or take. That's really focused
22 years
on
now.
highly performant infrastructure for not just hosting companies, but obviously fintech, on and on and on. There's a whole list. Which kind of brings me to a question, like we do have some very large cloud providers that everyone knows, and they're spending millions and billions of dollars to increase their awareness, increase their, let's just say, performance. How does this, I'm not going to use small in the derogatory way, but smaller hosting and infrastructure get together to sort of outdo $1 billion hosting company with $1 billion cloud backend provider? What makes that unique? And let's start with Tom. You've done something quite focused around the performance aspect of WordPress managed hosting. How does that sort of look different than what a lot of other managed hosts are doing?
Right. Well, I mean, this is the classic sort of conversation of how do startups disrupt billion-dollar industries. You look at companies like Airbnb and Uber and, folks that have come into decades-old industries and seemingly overnight disrupted them. And I think that is partially vision, right? Partially vision. It's partially innovation, right? It's seeing something other people don't see. But it's a large part of listening to your customers, listening to your audience. And I think one of the things we try to do to innovate is really try and find a need in the marketplace and solve it. And we spent a good bit of time, several years in R&D in our product, just trying to figure out how to best accomplish some really challenging problems with scaling WordPress. And not just scaling it, it's one thing to scale it in a cluster that you set up for one site, but it's another thing to build a platform that can make scaling readily available at an affordable price for thousands of sites. And so there's different challenges that you face at those different levels of scaling your platform. And so I think for us, one of the ways that we try to compete is, some of these companies that have really large scale, like large hosting companies, are not necessarily focused on solving this problem. Sometimes it's not a big enough opportunity or it doesn't fit with their existing brand. If you're a hosting company that is catering towards, new people getting online or entry-level hosting solutions, your brand might not support this notion of going to the mid or enterprise markets. And so I think we're just very focused on solving this problem that customers face around scaling and performance with WordPress. And I really think it's just been that level of focus, listening to our customers, and then partnering with companies like Steadfast to bring something to market that's unique, right? That no one, it's a convergence, I'm using that term again, it's a convergence of several different initiatives and factors. I'll give you one example. Everyone uses Cloudflare in our industry, right? And so we happen to be Cloudflare partners, but the implementation of Cloudflare that you get from our company when you use us is very different than what you'll get off the shelf. We've put a lot of time and energy into figuring out how to implement Cloudflare for our customers so that it's beneficial for what we're trying to drive value around, which is security and performance.
So at the end of the day, what we're seeing is a really expert level focus on a specific problem. And I guess that's probably why that brought you to Steadfast to some degree with their experience in competing against sort of the same people. So if Convezio is competing against some of the the top biggest names, Steadfast also has that competitive drive. James, if you want to touch on that, how metrics and performance with a lot of acronyms make Steadfast different than some of the bigger cloud providers?
I'll try to stay away from as many acronyms as possible in this. One thing we say often is that we want, focus on your strengths, right? That's a kind of a core belief here at Steadfast, and that applies not only to ourselves but also our clients. We want them to be able to focus on what they do best. And so, when it comes to our infrastructure, it's kind of, when you compare it to a big box cloud, let's say Google or AWS, there's nothing wrong with those platforms, as Tom said. That there's a time and a place for them, but they're built to accommodate as many different scenarios as possible, and that's a great thing. But when you're trying to squeeze out that last, little bit of, disk performance, or if you're looking to do, get a little more, get your RAM to do a little more, your CPU to do a little more, you have to work with a company that's willing to get in there and design with a purpose, right? To design this infrastructure, knowing exactly what's going to be deployed on it and being optimized for that. You could use the analogy of, of a car. Like a sports car is great, but it's maybe it lacks in gas mileage, or if you have a car that's great in gas mileage, maybe it lacks in luxury features or whatever you're interested in. And so when we deal on this level with each other, we're able to create products that are superior to those general products that are available to the general public. For us, it's very exciting because, again, going back to helping, the small guy beat the big guy, that's what both of us, Convesio and Steadfast are looking to do.
That's awesome. Thank you. And, really at the end of the day, we're looking at, a very unique sort of handcrafted managed WordPress hosting solution with the best managed platform on Convesio and the best infrastructure at the end of the day with Steadfast. I really appreciate the conversation. This has been great, and I think that many agencies and WordPress users are going to be, I think, taking a separate look at, am I getting enough out of where I am today? I need to be at the top of my industry, and performance is a critical component of that. And I think what you, Convesio and Steadfast, have brought together is a unique value proposition that takes people, over the line faster, no pun intended, since we're talking about performance, than anyone else does. Tom, let's get, to the end of this. How can people reach out to you and Convesio about getting the best WordPress platform out there?
Sure. Yeah. So we basically, you can get in touch with us at convesio.com, and I'm sure we'll include the link here in the video. You can also go sign up for a free 30-day trial there and test the platform, and reach out to us at sales@convesio.com, or you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. We're pretty much all over social media. And we'd love to have a conversation about how you might leverage the Steadfast architecture for your WordPress needs.
Awesome. Thank you, Tom. Thank you, James. My great pleasure to have you guys on here to talk about something very unique and valuable in the WordPress ecosystem.
Thanks, Robert.
Great. Thanks, Robert. Thanks, Tom.